Thank you, AJ, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dave Curon. I'm the Director of Adult Services at Autism Speaks. We're based in New York, although right now I'm home-based like so many of you are. At Autism Speaks, we're here to talk about people with cognitive differences. So we're not only talking about people with autism, but a wide range of conditions, disorders, differences, what some may call disabilities. But I think what you may hear from Mark and I today is that these folks often have very special abilities. And that's where we want to focus today. We see a real nice intersection here of a challenge faced by our community, those who are cognitively diverse with differences, and in the manufacturing industry, facing a labor shortage projected over the next decade. So let me tell you a little bit more about the population that we're talking about. One thing that's really important to keep in mind, I think, is how diverse this population is in and of itself. You're going to hear about lots of other aspects of diversity throughout the course of this conference. And each of those can intersect with someone with a cognitive difference. So racial, gender identity, other aspects of diversity also impact people with cognitive differences like autism. I can tell you specifically about autistic people. That is my area of expertise, and it's the focus of our partnership with Stanley Black & Decker. We're seeing increasing numbers of teenagers aging out of school each year. Just a few years ago, that number was 50,000 each year. We're now approaching 100,000 each year as that rise in prevalence of autism diagnoses among 8-year-old children age out of school as 18-year-old adults. Unfortunately, what's waiting for them on the other side is not all that promising. Estimates around the world say 80 to 90% of autistic people are unemployed or underemployed. And while there has been some promising developments in recent years, it's been pigeonholed into IT departments, software testing, programming, which absolutely is a good career path for some, but not for all. There are people who have more significant challenges, but who absolutely, nevertheless, can contribute in really meaningful ways. And I think it's really important for us to look very closely for those opportunities in the manufacturing industry. So I'm so pleased to be able to introduce to you today one of our most important partners at Autism Speaks, Stanley Black & Decker, represented today by Mark Mayberry, who's the Chief Technology Officer and also the executive sponsor of the Abilities BRG at Stanley Black & Decker, which I think is really important to building the success of that program there. So Mark, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Could you introduce your role and tell us a little bit about what's motivating you and others at Stanley Black & Decker to welcome the cognitively diverse into your company?
Well, good morning, Dave, and hello to everyone out there. It's a wonderful opportunity to be able to participate in such an important focused topic. At Stanley Black & Decker, I'm the first Chief Technology Officer, and together with my other executive committee members, we really have a strong corporate-wide commitment to diversity inclusion. And to your question and to your observation about the skills gap, it's really important to appreciate that the global workforce over the next decade is expecting about 10 million unfilled manufacturing jobs, 2.4 million skilled trade jobs in the US alone. Not filling these jobs it comes to a price of the US alone of about $2.5 trillion. And so this is a really significant need for talent. And so, right away, we know 15% of the population has a disability. We can't afford to exclude that large set of folks. The other important point to recognize is that we know actually from studies of companies that more diverse and more inclusive organizations benefit both in terms of growing faster, according to Boston Consultancy Group, about 2.5% growth, faster growth, and their shareholders get a better return. Cognitive diversity brings innovation. According to a McKinsey study, those companies that are more diverse are more ethical, they have better well-being, they're more innovative, they're more collaborative, they're higher performance. It's just a great thing to do. And the final point I'll make is consumers expect it. In a national survey in the United States, 92% of consumers believe that they were more favorably toward companies that hire disabled workers because they know they care for their workers. So in short, we do well by doing good. And if we limit the inclusion of anyone, we lose the power of all.
Mark, I love the way you speak about this because you weren't talking about hiring people with cognitive differences out of a sense of charity, out of a sense of, corporate responsibility on the part of Stanley Black & Decker. You're talking about this as a way to improve your business, to become more innovative, more efficient. Could you talk a little bit about that, kind of getting over that hump at other businesses? I'm thinking about maybe competitors of yours who are watching. How did you get kind of over that hump from viewing this as a corporate responsibility thing into an operations necessity?
Well, this is a really great question, Dave, because last month was Makers Month, and on the Stanley Black & Decker website, we highlighted 31 trade professions. There are 94,000 openings in electricians, plumbers, welders, machinists. And if people think, as I used to think, well, you can't make a lot of money in these trades, a manufacturing engineer, there are 12,000 openings right now. The median wage is $99,000, so almost $100,000 in some of these career fields. And I think what I would say to your question to my business colleagues out there, to our competitors, and to our suppliers, and also to organizations that we provide services to, is there are a whole bunch of myths about cognitively diverse workforce. Some people think that cognitive folks who maybe have different, and we like to talk about them as not disabled. We like to talk about them as diverse. They really have a unique neurodiversity associated with them. Some people think, well, they must be less capable. Actually, they can be more skilled. In fact, a Bureau of Statistics study, as well as a DuPont company study, found that workers with disabilities had significantly higher performance, specifically in the area of safety, than their counterparts. And that's in part because they're more aware, they're more conscientious. Some people say, well, maybe they're going to be less committed. Well, in fact, studies show that on average, they take less days off and they stay longer. So another study by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics found there were 2 times higher retention rates of visually and physically impaired folks. There's a Chicago Lighthouse study as well that looked at this. So, and I think it's important to appreciate as an employer that this isn't necessarily something that's going to be painful. It actually can be something that can be joyful. Said another way, you're going to get more than you give.
You're absolutely right, Mark. I love how you've done your research and the business value here. Another favorite of mine that people can look up is in the Harvard Business Review. There was a really interesting study, like what would make the most innovative and efficient problem-solving team? What's the makeup? And so they mixed gender and age and place of origin and religion and every other, educational attainment, everything they could think of. None of that really made significant difference. It was the team that was most cognitively diverse. So you had different problem-solving approaches. And to your point, Mark, these are people who have had to problem solve their whole lives to effectively, engage in their communities that weren't built for them. So these are people who have been problem-solving masters since they were children. Why shouldn't we tap into that kind of expertise? So I love that point. How, as a business person who, as a CTO, I'm sure does a lot of looking at metrics, what's most important to you in terms of how do we measure our success as an industry, about how we're impacting people with cognitive differences? What would you want to measure?
Yeah, well, it's a great question, Dave. I mean, generally, you want to measure some of the same kinds of success measures that you use in an existing operation. So, for example, one of the things we work with is the National Organization of Disabilities that provides us with expert guidance and education on best practices, on talent acquisition, on talent nurturing. We also, of course, work with your organization, Autism Speaks. We're right now working on a really exciting next generation makers program in manufacturing, working on 2 sites in the US where we're beginning programs, our Craftsman site in Texas and our New Britain plant in Connecticut that builds tape measures. Working with organizations within the company that focus on creative design, advanced analytics, advanced technical innovation. You mentioned, Dave, our Abilities ERG. We have over 600 members on our workplace, which is essentially Facebook for companies that folks are working across the world learning about what does it mean to be abilities. And I have to give a shout out to our Israeli manufacturers. Two of our plants there in our global tools and storage have been doing injection molding with a disabled team, fully incorporated into manufacturing for 13 years, since March 2007. 8 employees in one of our facilities, 10 in another. And what's amazing is we treat them just like everyone else, and we get tremendous discipline, tremendous rewards. I would like to say that, we are attentive to the fact that these populations sometimes do have different needs, right? If they're physically disabled, you've got to make accessibility. If they're visually, challenged, we need to make sure that we provide mechanisms to support them. I will note, that the disabled population has experienced 3 times more depression during COVID. And so we do have to be aware that there are differences, like in any group, that we need to pay attention to. But again, we measure the same kinds of things that we do in the past, and we get tremendous benefits. Our partnership with Franklin Academy, autistic high school right here in Connecticut, fantastic experience with those students who are just so creative and amazing.
They really are, Mark. And you covered so much. One thing I really want to echo for anyone listening, I think what's set up Stanley Black & Decker quickly for success is they have a person like Mark. Yes, you really do need that executive champion. CTO is wonderful. I don't always see someone so senior, but someone who can make, get a budget together, who can really kind of sell this to senior leadership. But just as importantly, and perhaps more importantly than Mark, is that there's this groundswell of support amongst the working, the workers of Stanley Black & Decker, many of whom referred one another to these jobs to begin with. There's a lot of kind of word of mouth sharing that I've learned happens in manufacturing. That kind of grassroots support for initiatives like this are crucial. And really proud to see that happening at Stanley Black & Decker.
Yeah, and to your point, Dave, we have Tracy and Tanya, 2 wonderful women, together with a set of other leaders at the company who come from different, functions. Some of them are from HR, some of them are from marketing, some of them are from manufacturing. And the important point is all of these individuals have a personal benefit and experience in their lives and in their working lives. And so we're just so blessed. And so one of the things I'd encourage companies out there is don't think this is an impossible thing to do. Just get started and learn from great organizations like Autism Speaks, like the National Organization for Disabilities, and you will find you will get a tremendous value out of engaging these populations.
Thanks so much for that plug, Mark. I really appreciate that. And something I want to make sure people know is that the work at Autism Speaks, for instance, and many of our other counterparts like NOD, is led by people who are part of these communities, right? So our work is led by my autistic colleagues based on their experience and their expertise. Something, Mark, thanks for mentioning our projects that we're working on together. One is a legacy site, a very old facility near your headquarters in New Britain. The other is a brand new facility in Texas, which is a right to work state. So we're going to have some really interesting learnings, right? We have a union facility, a non-union facility. Part of what we're working on together is helping to build a pipeline to cognitively diverse talent in these communities where that pipeline really doesn't exist, Mark, right? Like these people aren't necessarily on the college campuses where Stanley Black & Decker typically recruits from. So we're working together to kind of help build programs at community colleges to build this pipeline. Any comment about how can we help elevate the voices of the cognitively diverse to make sure people know that success is within reach and that this can be done at your own company? How do we kind of raise these up for others to learn from?
Well, I think it's a little bit of leadership by example, right? We have to engage these populations. It is so much fun to engage with these students. I'll tell you just one personal story. We participate in the Formula E racing, right? And so partly with kids, it's in populations, it's show them how exciting these careers can be and show them that they have a place in these careers. So we brought a bunch of the students from Franklin Academy and some others actually within New York City down to the Formula E race, which is basically these battery powered cars. And what's people don't realize is that all the cars are the same. and there's all kinds of digital instrumentation and analytics and training and gaming that goes on. Well, autistic students are phenomenal at these tasks. And here's the chief technology officer of a global company. I sit down together with next to a simulator right off the track with the real cars with a father and his autistic son. And we couldn't make it around the first couple of bends, and he was already at the finish line. And so I think, it's kind of get engaged with your local community, learn and reach out to these students, to these pipeline sources, and their teachers will respond. I mean, the teachers love, you can see the manufactory behind me, our factory of the future. And as you referenced, Dave, their Craftsman plant in Texas is looking a lot like that. It's got mobile robots, it's got cooperative robots, all kinds of digital technology. That is a great opportunity for folks with disabilities because it leverages their talent. And one final thing, this COVID situation has been terrible for many folks, but it's actually taken away the mobility challenge because we can tap into employees anywhere. So to those employers out there, think about reimagining the kind of work that you have, because you may find new opportunities for a whole new population of dedicated, expert, committed talent.
Yeah, absolutely right, Mark. And, I'll admit, I'm someone who had the impression of manufacturing as the old, dark, dirty, dangerous warehouse type work, right? It's simply not true anymore. So I think that's part of the work of the Manufacturing Institute, our host today, right? Is to kind of help rebrand this industry. I absolutely agree. It's a great fit for many people who have cognitive differences if they are given the supports they need. The last piece I want to toss out there is for you to know, I hear from autistic people, others with cognitive differences, they don't always see the role models. They don't know that you can work at Stanley Black & Decker in a really well-paying job that's respected in their community. Let's spotlight these people. Let's get stories written about them. Let's make videos on Facebook about them. And Autism Speaks, that's one thing we can really help with, right? We love to share those kinds of success stories. Let's make some more role models of makers with cognitive differences so that, those kids in school, Mark, who you get to visit with, they have someone in their minds who they believe they can achieve what that person has done as well.
Yeah, I think that's well said, Dave. I think, one of the things about cognitive diversity is, I like to say, one size does not fit all. If you've met one person, you've met one person. And we should celebrate that. The uniqueness and the diversity, again, makes companies stronger. It makes us better people. And so we're just so enthusiastic about this opportunity to engage a new community. And so for those who are out there, your uniqueness is a gift. And we want you to bring that gift to industry.
Beautifully said, Mark. Thanks so much, Mark Mayberry, CTO at Stanley Black & Decker. It's a privilege to speak with you, Mark. Thanks so much. And a big thank you to the Manufacturing Institute for hosting us. Again, I'm Dave Kieran from Autism Speaks, and it's been a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your conference.
Thank you.
David, I am shocked by that statistic that 80 to 90% of neurodiverse are unemployed or underemployed. I mean, I really think you hit the nail on the head when you compare that to the skills gap crisis we're facing right now in manufacturing. And Mark, I love that. Just get started. What a perfect way to capture to how to engage into any D&I activity, right? Just get started. Well, first, let's hear from one of our other partners, Robert Varnadoe, the president of Lee Container, who's also been working with neurodiversity. Robert, tell us, as a small manufacturer, how are you partnering with Autism Speaks?
Hello, I'm Robert Varnadoe, president of Lee Container. As a family-owned business, we have found success by staying true to the golden rule. Treat others as you want to be treated. I'm thrilled to be here today to tell you about a project that highlights just that. And it's very special to me as a businessman and as a father to an autistic son. As you may know, national data shows that most autistic adults are unemployed or underemployed, despite many having the skill sets and expertise to excel in the workplace. That's why we're working with Autism Speaks to implement the Workplace Inclusion Now program starting at our Centerville, Iowa facility. The program is a commitment to an inclusive workplace culture by hiring people with autism, intellectual and/or developmental differences. This will provide hiring managers and employees with the resources and tools to create a welcoming environment in which all employees can thrive. This partnership will drive progress for autistic people in our local communities. We'll not only raise awareness about the need for inclusion and equity for people with autism or other conditions who are looking for work. It will also empower people with autism and other differences to become workforce ready. Through this important work, we are developing the blueprint for a nationwide effort to create meaningful change in employment opportunities for people on the spectrum. We hope you will join us in this commitment because inclusive employment isn't just the right thing to do, it's good for business.